We are busy typing away, and this is live with the community, the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development bi-weekly call. Today is October 12th. We are almost halfway into October. How did this happen? Well, guess what? Time flies when you're having fun. And we're having fun together. So let's talk about what more fun we're going to have on this call. We're going to get the latest updates on the community. We're going to talk about a number of things like .NET libraries from P&P, PowerShell, Yo Teams, Microsoft Teams Toolkit, MGT, or Microsoft Graph Toolkit as we know it, independent publisher connectors. And then we're going to see a whole bunch of info and the latest updates on script samples, team samples, Power Platform samples, and then everybody's favorite time, picture time with Together Mode. It's going to be taken live from Seattle as Vesa is in the mothership. Then we're going to have our two all-star presenters of the day. Luise Freese is going to cover building your own custom AI chatbot based on company data stored in SharePoint. So many good, better together stories there. And then we are going to hear from Steve Corey on reminding users to respond to approvals using Power Automate. So we are excited. We are going to power up today. It's a power-packed demo. See what I did there? But let's first talk about some resources that are available to all of you absolutely free by way of the community. We've got videos, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community videos. We've got LinkedIn groups and discussions for you to converse and collaborate with all of your favorite people in the community. We've got plenty of open source tooling for you to expand and extend the technology that we use every single day. And we had mentioned those samples. There are so many samples, I believe over 1,700 samples available to you. So we're getting close to 2,000. Everybody, we can get there. You can access all this stuff by remembering every single one of these URLs by heart. We're going to make it a quiz at the end. I'm just kidding. Just one, ak.ms/community/home will get you access to all these resources and tools that are available for you as well by the community for the community. So check them out. Now, you're on this call because you like community calls, and we do too. We've got plenty of them available to you, so let's give it a rundown for those that are unaware. Microsoft 365 and Power Platform weekly call with Microsoft speakers. That's what makes that special, everybody, is you're going to hear directly from the program managers and the product managers who are building the software that we love, showing off the latest features and capabilities that you can take advantage of and even provide insight and input on. So definitely go get that on your calendar. We'll take a look at the agenda for next week in a moment. And then we've got our Power Platform monthly call. This is happening next week, in fact. So take a look at getting that on your calendar if you're a Power Platform addict as well. Office add-ins, and then our bi-weekly sibling calls, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community, which you are on right now, and then Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. Those happen bi-weekly every Thursday, 7 a.m., rain or shine. Doesn't matter what day it is around the world. We are a global community, so that call will be available to you. You can get access to all those calls by going to ak.ms/community/calls. You can check out the videos. They're all recorded. You can get the ICS and add it to your calendar, or you can join it direct. Definitely get involved. It's one of the best ways to keep up with the technology and collaborate with the community here in the chat. Now, I mentioned that weekly call with Microsoft speakers. So next week on the 17th of October, we're going to hear from Nancy on an introduction to Viva Connections announcements. Dan's going to be back on the Azure Communication Services, showing us how we can have a resource for our solution. And then Luaya is going to cover Teams activity notification APIs, now supporting new RSC permissions. So lots of exciting spectrum-spanned topics for us to take advantage of and learn more about. Now, you may be wondering, I got some cool stuff I want to show off, and we want you to. So we are welcoming everyone to request a demo on these calls. Now, don't overthink this, anybody. It is absolutely okay to come in and show a favorite feature, a tip, a technique, a trick. Doesn't have to be a flux capacitor showing us what makes time travel possible. It is okay if you show us something that you have found useful and that you want to share with the community. But you may think I've never done it. That's okay too. We have a buddy system in place to buddy you up with another MVP or member of the community, or even a member of Microsoft, so that you can work on that in advance together and be sure that you're feeling comfortable and confident and you're going to knock it out of the park. I promise you, it'll be awesome. So don't hesitate to fill that in, and we'll reach out to you. Let us know in the notes if you're looking for a buddy, and we will get you paired up with someone to present with. Now, we also have our Sharing is Caring initiative. We had one yesterday that had to be rescheduled, so we apologize for that, but we're going to get more scheduled up here pretty soon. And we've got the videos that we recorded, so you can kind of take some of this on demand. We understand that as we get into the holidays, everybody's schedule is busy, but these are unique opportunities for you to collaborate with other members of the community. There are live, hands-on, safe space opportunities for you to work and learn how to accomplish things like, I don't know, submitting a pull request, or what is a pull request. We want you to feel comfortable and confident in all the areas of contributing to the community that we provide. So these are no cost. We do try to schedule them. We're starting to spin them up and scale them up and covering a lot of these topics in video so that you can get them on demand and then kind of have some office hours available to you. So keep on the lookout for that. We're looking to scale all that here pretty soon. And then, of course, once you do contribute, we want to recognize you for all the amazing work that you're doing in a formal and official way. And that is where our recognition program comes in, powered by Credly. So you get those really cool badges. We've got more available that have come out this year. And of course, it's that season. So we got the pumpkin spice latte commits. So take advantage of that. That's available through December. But this month only, Hacktoberfest. It is October or Hacktober. So we have created our own Hacktoberfest badge. All you need to do is submit one contribution throughout the entire month, and you will get access to this limited time, 1 month only badge, only during Hacktober. So take advantage of that. If you haven't opted in, go to ak.ms/community/recognition, give us your GitHub ID, give us your email address, and that's all you got to do. We'll track you forever in a non-stalky way, kind of a supportable way. So take advantage of that. We absolutely cover it for free, no cost to you, and we want to reward you for the work that you're doing because we are very appreciative. All right, let's get into some project-specific updates, and we'll hand it over to Bert to kick off PNP.NET libraries.
Awesome. Thank you, David. On the .NET side, we have like a continuously weekly progress. So for the last 2 weeks, for Core SDK, which is the newer SDK, Koen Zomers did work on fixing a URL issue. So when you download it, try to download a file in a very deep path. It failed, and he fixed that. So thanks for that. Thank you, Koen, for that. I'm not yet awake, so sorry. And then there is a new enum added around item visibility in the list. It used to be like an integer. Now we have like an enum, just a small thing, but it helps with getting it easier for folks to use it. On the framework side, Gautam has been working, doing changes that also are used in PowerShell, but he did work on ripping out special characters that are not allowed when you create a non-group connected site, like communication site, for example. And there's also updates on the graph usability, which is used to make graph calls around users and so on. That didn't work when you went to like an other cloud, like government cloud and so on. So that's fixed as well. So I think that's good because we're really getting close to getting everything to work across different clouds. That's a positive journey, and I think we're getting really good there. So maybe Gautam can tell more about that. So let's move to Gautam from PowerShell.
Thanks, awesome. Bert. Yep. In PNP PowerShell, PNP PowerShell is a PowerShell module that you can use to connect to various Microsoft 365 services like SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, Planner, etc. So what did we add in the newest nightly builds? One of our community contributors, Reshmi, she added a new commandlet, get PNP retention label, to retrieve all the retentions label which are available in your tenant. Kun added a new commandlet, which is set PNP search external item command, which is very interesting. It is going to be super useful for graph connector kind of scenarios. We also added a bunch of parameters support for the restricted access control in the set PNP tenant site and the set PNP command as well. And then there was an issue related to PNP page scheduling feature, which suddenly stopped working because Microsoft. So we fixed that. We also improved quite a few commands by adding output type information for that. Besides that, we'd absolutely love to hear from you. So do feel free to reach out to us on the discussion forum or on the issue list. And as David mentioned, this is Hacktoberfest. So we would absolutely love to have you here on contribute in the PNP PowerShell repo as well. So it's super easy. If you're Visual Studio, it's just F5. And if it is VS Code, you can just do Control-Shift-Build and you can just get started with PNP PowerShell as well. So that's all from my end. Over to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you. Got him. Excellent stuff there. Let's move into Yo Teams with Rick.
Hey, yeah, I was almost late because I was building my a Teams application, which is actually a very good idea because I was playing around with the Teams AI library. So we should add that to the Yo Teams generator. It's fun to play around with the AI stuff. We are at the preview tree was already announced or released at the end of August. So I think it's time we move that one to the normal one, so a real new release, because the preview downloads have been down a little bit lately. So I think we have a few issues still open, but once we get those fixed, we can do a real release. And then of course it's Hacktoberfest, so everybody who wants to help out, they're always welcome. And we're always looking for contributors to help. Or if you don't want to help and you just have a great idea, just put up an issue in the issue list or a suggestion, and we'll have somebody pick that up. And then I think it's over to the teams, the other teams toolkit. Back to you,
Awesome.
David.
Thanks, Rick. Very good stuff. Let's move to John Miller. With Teams Toolkit.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, David. So we have a new pre-release for the VS Code extension coming very soon. I don't know the exact date, but it's either this week or next. Sorry, I forget. But look for that in VS Code. And that has simplified message extension support, which you might have been hearing about for a while now. So you can create API-based message extensions using that. And there's some new improvements to the sample gallery, some new samples. If you're part of the early access program, you'll also be able to create Copilot plugins with that scaffolding, but you do need to be part of the early access program for that. 17.8 preview for VS has a bunch of new templates in there, similar to what we have in the VS Code extension. And then we've also been working on the CLI and improving the commands there and formatting issues, a ton of quality of life stuff in the CLI, so you can continue to use that. So we'll still be working on Copilot plugin support and the message extension stuff. And we also have some new tools that we're developing for bots that's kind of prototypey and looking for feedback on that. So if you're interested in seeing some very early hacky stuff that might be cool and would like to get feedback, you can use the link TTK chat down there, the AKMS link, to chat with me, and I'm happy to show it to you and get some feedback. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Now we get the whole team in today. This is awesome. Let's move into Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Graph Toolkit with Seb.
Awesome. Well, we just shipped our version 3.1.3, which includes a ton of capabilities. Basically, all of our components were touched in the last few weeks, so it's great. There's a lot of movement on these. We're also getting closer and closer to releasing a really cool new feature around Teams conversation. So keep an eye on that. I think it's going to be big. Our MGT samples repo is still live. So aka.ms/mgt/samples. We added a couple of samples a couple of weeks ago around full apps leveraging the Graph Toolkit. So that's really, really cool. And our public roadmap is available. So we went the extra mile. We're now sharing with all of you what we're thinking about the future in short, mid, and long-term way. So we invite you to test what's coming up, install the MGT packages with npm install at Microsoft/MGT@next. And we need your help. If you want to come in and use the tool, feel free to log in bugs. Feel free to help us build and improve functionality. So you can send PRs, receive PRs from the community every week. And we're really, really glad that we have a very active community on the Graph Toolkit. So thank you so much, everybody, for that. And that's it for this week. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Seb. Very, very cool stuff as well. And now, independent publisher connectors. Jocelyn, tell us more.
Hello, everybody. It was so awesome seeing so many of you last week at MPPC. I am now able to share with you all this awesome link called aka.ms/ISV plugin preview. So we have 1,075 total certified connectors spread across so many partners and publishers that made this a reality. But I've spoken for a while about how we can now enable that connector as a plugin for M365 Copilot. If you're an existing publisher and you're interested in learning more, please scan that QR code or go to that link right there. Additionally, we're covering even more of this this content in more specific depth at our Connectors Labs call once a month. So scan that QR code on the top right if you want to come to one of those. As always, thank you so much for your contributions to our repo. We have even more independent publisher connectors than connectors made by Microsoft, which is such an awesome achievement and milestone. And if you're looking to get started, links will be in the chat for our repo. Thank you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. And that is really great that we've got more contributions from the community than Microsoft. Shows the passion that you all bring. So thank you.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah, excellent. Okay, let's get into script samples with Paul Bullock.
Hey everybody, Script Samples, if you didn't know, is a place where you can share PowerShell scripts or Bash scripts with the community based on some of your favorite tooling, such as PNC PowerShell, CLI FM365, SPO Management Shell, or whatever you like, really. The repository can support many tools. So we have some great new scenarios in PNP PowerShell. So we got creation of online sites from CSV by Kashitz Kalari. We've got backup of all custom formatting by Dan Toft. We've got an alternative, add an alternative language to SharePoint Online by Kajit Kalari again, and copying files from different SharePoint libraries with custom metadata from Rashmi Aklu, which is super cool. I've also added a little filter on the site as well to filter any AI-related samples. And there's a lot of AI work going on. There are some samples coming in, so you've been able to start filtering by those as well, so you can find them quicker, which is super cool. Always open for new contributions, but if you don't know how to get started and you want to reach out to me, by all means, my preference is LinkedIn or Twitter, and my handle's there on the screen there. But absolutely, I can help you if you're struggling to get started. But thank you very much for all of your amazing contributions. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And friends, this is one of the easiest ways to contribute. We've all got those utility scripts that we use for everyday interactions with the technology. Definitely share them with the community. Well worth it. Okay, Microsoft Teams samples with Mr. Bob German.
Hey, everybody. We have a cool new sample this week from Marcus Muller. The amazing Marcus comes through again. This one is made available previously in TypeScript, now in C# using the Teams toolkit. This one generates a document. So I know there's a lot of document generation scenarios out there. And it actually puts it right into SharePoint with a SharePoint content type using a document template. So it's cool stuff. Shows you how to use single sign-on and the ever-loved on behalf of flow to act on behalf of the user to actually do all this work in the graph. It works in Teams, Outlook, and M365, and even uses the Fluent UI Blazor components. So many thanks to Marcus, and you can check it out at the big URL on top. And we welcome your contributions. Would love to see some more Teams samples coming from you all. Thank you so much. Back to you,
Awesome.
David.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks. You could even say he's blazing some trails with this sample, right?
Oh, yeah, you could.
All right, yes.
Say that if you really wanted to.
I guess I must have wanted to. All right, let's talk about some Power Platform samples. This is the Power Platform prompts. We covered it quite a bit actually at MPPC last week, but wanted to highlight it again because we know Copilot is becoming so much more popular everywhere. We've got 155 now, I believe, in Microsoft. So this allows you to kind of utilize some prompts that you can use within those Copilots and contribute your own. Another wonderful way to get involved with the community and contribute. Check it out at ak.ms/Power Platform prompts. Okay, well, it is that time. What time? It is picture time. So Vesa is in Seattle. I think he's still gonna capture this.
All good. I will set up the scene. Here we go. Yep, we can see the people. And it's not pixelated today, so that's not that bad. So this is good. This is really good. We have, again, 50 seats in the room. We're hitting now like 40, so a few more seats. Let's wait a few more seconds. We're not in a massive rush because we do have 2 demos today. One more second, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to start the recording. Oh, there we go. We're getting the final row. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. Awesome to have you in a call. Yay! A lot of people in a call again today. Brilliant. Thanks, everybody. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. And back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa. Well, then let's kick it off with our fantastic presenters of the day. So we all know her well, Luise, building your own custom AI chatbot based on company data stored in SharePoint. Take it away.
Okay. I assume you can all see my screen right now?
Yes, it's loaded and looks great.
Perfect. Okay, so welcome to how to build a chatbot based on your own company data that is stored in SharePoint. Very, very short, just about me. Hey, I'm Luise. For everyone who does not know me, I'm an independent M365 and Power Platform consultant. I'm based in Germany. I sit here in Düsseldorf. I was traveling a lot today, just like first day at home since 2 weeks. So this is really, really great. I'm a dual MVP in both business applications and M365 Dev. I blog at m365princess.com, and you can find me on socials under at Luise Freese, which is my name. Okay, so this is usually the problem statement that my customers present me with. So they have company data, of course, stored in SharePoint library, and libraries usually look like this. So this is just like ugly and messy, and then they try to find a way to just like circumvent the obvious that they would need to tidy up and ask me, hey, Luise, could you maybe please build a chatbot for us that would just like query the data that sits in these documents in our library or in our libraries? And I was just like, yeah, of course I can do that, but still would be better to tidy up first, but they never want that, so I want the chatbot. So the way I approach it, I would use Azure Cognitive Search to index the content that sits in the library, and then we will utilize Azure OpenAI to query that index, and later on we can either deploy this to an Azure Web App, or we can build a Power Platform custom connector so that we can utilize that in either a Power App or in Power Automate or even in Power Virtual Agents, and you just see where we can use this in the Power Platform. The way to do this is first we need to get some prep work done. And the prep work usually is, if we want to query something that sits in a library, we should have a library and some content in that library. Often the question is, will cascading subfolders, will that work? Yes, it does. Still, it is not super recommended. So search is slower and indexing takes more time. And the more time it takes, the more expensive it is. So highly recommended to first tidy that up. What you need to do is note down your site URL. So if you note down your site URL, not the entire library URL, just the site, then you need to have an Azure Cognitive Search instance, and you will also need to turn on the system-assigned managed identity for that. So this is a little bit messy, I think, because we need that managed identity just so that we can circumvent passing in a tenant ID. So we just like check if that's in the same tenant, and if that managed identity is turned on, then we know this, but we'll not use that actually to sign in, because we still need an app registration, Entra ID app registration. So yes, formerly known as Azure AD app registration. We will give it permissions, delegated permissions for site.read.all and files.read.all. And also we will note down the app ID. So that's just like super, super crucial. And the last thing on that slide is we need to have a model deployed in Azure OpenAI. And we will also need to note down the API key. So by now, if you do that, you should have just like Notepad open and just like have a bunch of things that you note down. Maybe you realize that you do not even need to have a secret, because that is just like managed behind the scenes. But that are the things that would need to prepare for this. The actual work that we'll need to do is, I would say, 4.5 calls. So the first API call that we need to make is we need to add this SharePoint library as a data source to Azure Cognitive Search. Second call that we got to make is we will create an index in Cognitive Search. Next one is we'll create an indexer. And to create an indexer, so this is kind of just like two-step process, because if we run this call, this will just like run forever, because in the meantime we will need to be asked to log in with a device code flow, and that can only happen if we get the status for that. So we need to just like run one call in between and then return to the other one. And the last call is the actual chat completion call against Azure OpenAI, in which we'll ask OpenAI something against our data that now is indexed by Cognitive Search, which sits in the SharePoint library. Okay, so to see how this works, we'll switch to Postman. Make that easy for you, but first maybe I will show you the document library. So I have a site. In that site, I have a document library. It's the default library. And
Luise, can you zoom in a bit?
Like
Excellent,
this?
thank you. Yep.
Perfect. So we have a few documents, and we have a fictional company called BioBright. So this does not really exist, and I created a few documents about BioBright. So for a mission statement and the welfare program, and so on and so forth. So that is information about this fictional company that exists nowhere on the internet. It is only in this document library. And what we now do is I have a Postman collection, and I will zoom in here as well. That should do the job already. We will have our 4.5 calls. First one being creating a data source. So ECSSP, so that is just like my cognitive search instance. So it's Azure Cognitive Service SharePoint. And obviously we need to pass in a few things. So we will create a data source, we'll give it a name. It has the type SharePoint. Will pass in a connection string. That connection string consists of our site URL, which we can see here. Then the application ID from our application registration in Entra that we did before. And we'll specify that this is the default site library, and that should be good. And when I practice this, I accidentally hit the send button. So this is already done. Ooh, that looks bad. Well, we'll clear this out. So this already ran. Creating the index would be the second one. So again, we will just run this again. The indexes, we'll say, hey, in that index, we want to have some fields. So please do that as well. As always, in the headers, we will specify an API key, which we noted down before as well. And if you like to, you can export this then later on as well, and specify here even more which fields have which content type. Next, I'll send this very quickly. So this should return 201, so that got created, so that we can see, okay, this is here, not here. So see SharePoint index PNP. If you want to go to the cognitive search instance in the Azure portal and see the indexes, so you can see I did this a lot of times already because I demoed this a few times already, and this here is the latest one. It has no documents so far indexed, but the SharePoint index is already here. We go back to Postman. We will do the next call, which will be the indexer. So we'll post against the indexer's endpoints, specify the name and specify the data source name, which is not the SharePoint data source PNP, and specify, hey, I want to have PDF and docx documents. And there's no schedule that this runs on. So right now I would just like do this one time. So if I now hit send, this will run and run and run and run and run. So I will need to be a little bit quick because while this is running, I need to run this one here as well. So the body is empty, and it's a get against the status of the indexer endpoint here, which I specified before. So what we're doing is when I run this one here, I will get a response with a device code prompt. So this little code, and then I need to log in. Doing that and prompting that, just like hit the send button here. So this is sending the request. This will just like run forever. We'll then run this here. Ooh, it doesn't like the API key here in the header. So I will delete that and try again. This does an okay. I get this code over here. Control C. Sign in. Control V. I hit next. Yes, I do want to sign in. Yes, I do have a password. Now it's prompting me for MFA. I'll just use the SMS for that because it's faster. Checking my phone during community call. That's great. This is for some X257. We'll verify this. Yes, this is all I'm trying. This looks good. Next thing is I can go back in here. It looks like, wow, this returned an error. I will not fret by this because I will just like wait it out because this is always how that works. So I checked before, and if I go in here now and say, okay, indexers, we should see just like in a minute, hopefully, the PNP, just like that, that's ending in PNP. It does not right now, but I promise this will do the job. Maybe coming back to that a little bit later again, because right now it does not show up. Once we have that in place, we can do one of two things, or we can do both. We can either go to the OpenAI Studio and go to the chat playground. And in the chat playground, we can say, hey, I do want to add my own data. And obviously I did that before, but I will just like close that out again.
Hey, Luisa, could you zoom in on this one too for us, just so it picks up on the video well?
Of course.
Thank you.
Wow, this is good. Okay, so I will add a data source, and I'll say, hey, this is cognitive search. And this is my Azure subscription one, and this is my cognitive search service. And I will just like need a little bit of a moment, and you can see here now it showed up as the SharePoint index PNP. So this is all here now, and yes, I do acknowledge this. Select next, which is like say contents and fields. Say next, the keyword search, go next, save and close. Now this is here. Now I can ask it questions based on the data that is here. So what is the, I don't know, value, or what are the core values? Use icon type, BioBright. BioBright. Okay, I'm asking this. Hope it's thinking. Oh, come on. Okay, so we try again. Right. Maybe it still needs a little bit of a moment. Okay, so it answers this. It even finds a reference. So there is a document that tells me more about healthcare at BioBright. So this works. So now I have a few options. I can either say, hey, I want to have a new web app, which means I can give it a name. So this is the BioBright app. Now I'll select my subscription. I'll select a resource group, select a location, whatever, select the pricing plan, go for S1. I acknowledge that this will just execute usage in my account. Okay. Please don't do spaces, and I will deploy this. And this usually takes, well, let's say a few minutes. While this is doing its job, we can do something else. So, and I obviously prepared this already for you. We can use the very same information that we used in Postman and use that in Power Automate and Power Apps. Not natively though, because we cannot make direct API calls, but we can wrap this API just in a custom connector. And in that custom connector there, we can use that and expose it to Power Virtual Agent and to Power Automate and to Power Apps and just like everything. To do that, so obviously I already prepared this for you. So zooming in just like a little bit. So our host is my Azure OpenAI instance, and of course I have a base URL, and just like ends with the deployment that I'm using. On the security tab, I just specify that I have an API key, and that will pass it into the header. The definition so far I only have one action, but that can easily be expanded. So that is chat completion, and to do that I import this with a sample, and there's just like this endpoint. So it's extensions, /tabs, chat, completions, and I modified the body in a way so that I could pass in a question in the content property. So maybe what are the core values of BioBright, but that is then something that I can always specify either from my Power Automate flow later on or from my Power App. And obviously that would be something that if I would build that Power App, or just like put or hook into a text input box or something similar like that. So to do so, obviously, we would like to test this operation here. It's thinking again. Well, so it gives a status 200, which is cool. So that already worked. And we can see the core values of Firewrite innovations are sustainability and yada, yada, yada. So that is a cool thing. And we have all of the properties that we needed here. We can specify these here, but we could also just like run a script to just like pass that in automatically so that we do not do this to do anymore. And now we could use that in a Power Automate flow and do some very, very cool stuff with that, or just like a simple Canvas app and run this from there. And maybe, no, it is still deploying, but I promise, I think you saw this before, that you can just like easily deploy those web apps, and then you can just like add them as a tab to a Teams channel, for instance, or you can create your PWA app from that. So that should be super fun. I would like to share a few gotchas. So there's just like a few things where I thought, wow, that struck me just like a little bit. First thing is OpenAI. This is cool, and everyone wants to build something with OpenAI, but it is yet another API. So there's nothing that is truly special about it. We send requests, we get data back, and we just plug the data into our apps. Second thing is please watch out, because cognitive search can be super expensive, and if you don't need that service anymore, then you can just like delete that resource and recreate it if needed. And third thing is what I showed you today, that only works for data in libraries. It does not work for content on pages, and it does not work for lists either. So that is right now, this is limited to libraries, and we will need to wait if they put out something for other content as well. And with that, thank you and happy building.
Very, very cool stuff, Luise. I'm glad we had extra time today because there's a lot of moving pieces, but you were able to cover it very, very nicely. So very helpful for everyone. Really, really cool to see all this stuff works together and how it can be implemented. So thank you. All right, let's move into the next demo. Steve Corey is going to cover reminding users to respond to approvals using Power Automate. Steve, take it away.
All right. Thank you, David. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me in front of this wonderful community again. My name is Steve Corey, and I'm a lead consultant at Quisitive. I'm going to be talking to you today about using or creating Power Automate approval reminders. It's one of the situations that has come up a lot in my work. On the screen, you can see my social channels where I post content about SharePoint pretty regularly, so feel free to reach out. So approvals are great. They allow you to collect valuable feedback from users and make decisions based on them. While you're supporting business processes with Power Automate, approvals are bound to occur. Luckily, they're really easy to set up and vastly superior to the SharePoint Designer workflows, which were pretty much painful. So there's a lot of great features in the Power Automate approvals, however. One of those are custom responses. So you're not necessarily limited to approve and reject for responses. You can have custom ones instead. There's also markdown support. So as you're adding the details of that approval item, what needs to go to the user, you can add some formatting in there to make it look nice. There's also multiple methods to approve, like web, email, Teams, and even mobile support, which is great. I especially like the Teams one because we already get too many emails anyway. So if we could send, things through Teams instead, it really cuts down on the organization that someone's got to do. And lastly, there's the reassignment ability. So if somebody is, gets an approval and they're on vacation, maybe they could go in there and reassign that to somebody who's still in the office so that they can keep that business process moving forward. But it's not all unicorns and rainbows. There are some limitations with approvals that we're dealing with. One of those is a 28-day limit. That's the longest you can wait for an approval before that action just times out. There's also no built-in reminder support. Not really sure why, because most other workflow products all seem to have that feature. So what's the solution? We could wait for Microsoft to add that to the approvals connector, but what we may end up with is something that's more limited than what we need. We'd be stuck with however Microsoft designed that action to behave. So what I would suggest is we just simply get creative. It reminds me of when I was little and playing with building blocks, or maybe you had Tinker Toys or Lincoln Logs. I'm guessing you had some sort of object, and it was really simple to understand, like a block, but you could build complex things out of it. Really, whatever your imagination could conjure up, you can build using those simple objects. And that's really how I see Power Automate. They give you a lot of small components, and then it's up to you to use your creativity and build something complex, hopefully to solve business processes. So with that, let me show you this demo, and I'll show you how I've been able to create a reminder type feature using what we already have in Power Automate. So I'm in here with a test flow. The trigger that I'm using is when a file is created or modified. It's a pretty basic trigger. I'm not really using anything advanced on it. It's just going to be looking at my sales documents library. And other than just the basic information, one thing to note is that I'm using a trigger condition. So it's not going to fire on every file creation or a file modification. In this case, I'm looking at a custom metadata field called status, and I'm only going to fire this workflow when it's equal to submitted. So in this case, someone would update their file metadata status to be submitted to start this process. Now, once this trigger it fires off, we're going to create a few different variables. One of these is going to count the number of reminders that we've sent on this particular item, at least for this instance of the workflow. Then we're going to have an escape flag, because if you see down here, there's a do until loop. So this escape flag is going to help us to break out of that loop when we need to. Then we're going to create two other variables. One's going to store the approval ID, and this is the ID of the approval record inside Dataverse, because we're going to need to track that. We're also going to be storing the adaptive card JSON that's generated for this approval, because we're going to reuse this. The next thing we do is go into a condition, and this is about determining, are we reusing an approval or not? Now, I'll get into this on the second iteration of this flow, or the second execution, really. But just know that for the first execution, we're not going to be reusing anything. So we're going to go down the no branch, and the no branch is going to first create a brand new approval. In this case, it's going to Adele. We're doing a little bit of markdown here just to do something with formatting. And then that's really about it. This is probably the same type of approval you're used to using. However, note, I'm not using the create and wait for an approval action. I'm just creating the approval itself. We're going to do the waiting on a different part of this workflow. So once the approval is created, I'm going to get the two pieces of information I need from that action. The output of that create and approval step is going to give me the approval ID, which I'm going to store in a variable, and then the adaptive card JSON, same thing, stored right into a variable. Then we get into kind of the more meat of what this thing really does. I'm going to set the status of that document to pending approval. That way, as I modify this further down, it's not going to re-trigger the workflow, at least until I want it to. I'm also going to store the adaptive card JSON and the approval ID as part of the metadata in that file, because we'll be reusing this. Then we really get into where all the work is done. So this is the do until loop that's just going to keep looping through until the approval complete variable is set to true. And the first thing we do is we wait for the approval. So here's where we're waiting for that user to respond. And we're referencing that variable. But what's interesting here is I'm expecting it to time out at some point, and I'm using that timeout to be able to send the reminder. And the way I'm doing that is under settings, I've got a timeout. Right now it's 6 days. For testing, you could even do 1 minute. And that's how I usually will test this, is to set it to 1 minute so I could see it working a lot faster. And that helps me iterate over this to improve it. So let's cover the reminders second. First, let's just assume a perfect world scenario. The user has responded to that in the next 6 days, which is usually a miracle. So at that point, we know we're going to be done with this approval. So we'll set our escape flag to true. And then we'll just handle the outcome of that approval the way you would normally do that. We send a notification to the user, and then we'll update our file metadata to set that status to either approved or rejected. And then we'll clear out the data from those fields since we don't need to store that data anymore. So like I said, that's the perfect world scenario. Usually it doesn't happen that way. So in that case, after 6 days, this is going to time out and it's going to go into our reminder logic. And here we're going to be counting up the number of reminders we want. In this case, I've got it set to 3 reminders. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to go down this right side, this no branch. So we're going to post a chat to that user through Teams, and we're going to send them the approval card, that adaptive card JSON. And this isn't just posting a regular Teams message. This is actually going to be posting an adaptive card to that user. So this is a different action than just posting a regular message. Once we've got that message sent, we're going to increase or increment our reminder count by 1 so that we can keep track of that. And that really ends the do until loop. So that makes us come right back up to the top. Approval complete is still a false because we haven't gotten any sort of response yet. So then we start waiting for the approval again. Now, here's where the kind of the fun stuff really starts. Once we've sent 3 reminders, then when we hit this condition again, we're going to go into this yes branch. And here we're going to set the approval complete to true. So this is going to break us out of the loop entirely because at this point we're getting real close to that 28-day timeout limit. And we really want to just start this thing fresh, basically. So we're going to set this approval complete to true. We're going to update the file properties, and we're going to set it back to submitted. And this, if you paid attention to the trigger, well, we're triggering off of that submitted value. So this is going to end up restarting that whole workflow. Nothing else really has changed because we've already saved our data to the file. So once we've updated the status, it'll hit this compose block, which really is just there to tie those two branches together. So this workflow is going to end, but it's going to restart, like I said, because we've just re-triggered it by setting the status to submitted. It runs through all the same stuff, but then it comes back to the reusing an approval condition. And here, we're looking for the value to be inside that approval ID object. Well, that field. In this case, we're going to have approval ID. There's going to be a value there. So it's not going to go down the no branch. We don't need to create an approval. We still have one in Dataverse. And if we were to create a new approval, then what that would do is create an additional approval record and basically orphaning the old record that would have to get cleaned up by an administrator somewhere. So we're going to go down this yes branch. And what we're going to be doing is just grabbing those values off of the file metadata fields and populating our variables. And if you remember, I was using those variables all throughout this lower section. We still set pending approval so that, again, we don't retrigger until we're ready. And then we start coming back to the wait for an approval. And this is referencing that approval ID variable. So we're waiting for this same approval that already existed because we created it on our last flow run. All of the rest of this is all reusing what we had. It's the same approval card, the same adaptive card JSON from our last approval. And this will just continue over and over again until, in this case, Adele finally responds to that approval. So this is what I thought was a really clever way of handling reminders without creating orphaned approval records or anything like that. I've worked with some colleagues to improve this as recently as I think last week. So I wanted to show this off and show you what I was able to do by using those simple building blocks to build out a complex process to address something that we don't yet have as part of Power Automate. Now, to switch back to here, there's still some improvements. There's still some things that I can do that I want to do to improve this one step further. And dynamic approvals are at the top of my list. Now, what I mean by dynamic approvals is, what if instead of baking in the approver for these documents or having it as a metadata field on the file, what if there was a separate list where we could store some rules, basically, to route approvals where they need to go? That's kind of what I see as dynamic approvals. So maybe based on a metadata field like category or department, we can look up a list and determine, well, based on these rules, who should this approval go to? That's really the next step where I'm going to take this solution to. And I'm really excited about showing this off again once I get to the next major version, if you will, of this whole solution. I don't have this submitted to the PNP GitHub repo yet, but that is on my list to do very, very soon. So look for that. But that really wraps up my demo. So I'm going to pass it back to you, David.
Awesome, Steve. Really, really good stuff. Did have a link in the chat for you all, excuse me, around the solution. Steve does have it in his own GitHub repo, but as he mentioned, we're working with him to get it into the PNP repo so that it is available and everyone can help contribute to it, which is a really, really great thing. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I noticed that Adele was being involved with the approvals there. I guess that's her next big hit, right? Approvals from the other side. Is that how it works there? Yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I got some crickets on that one. All right, well, everybody, let's wrap this up today. Hot dog. We had some amazing presenters today, and Luise and Steve, thank you both for presenting today. Luise covered the custom AI chatbot based on SharePoint data. And Steve just covered reminding / he originally wanted to call it nagging. I said we should be a little more nice. Reminding users to respond to approvals using Power Automate. So we appreciate both of you so much. Thank you for taking the time to present to the community. You are the best. Now, if you'd like to get a little bit more involved in the community, we are with the cool kids now inside of Discord. So definitely check that out. It is growing quite a bit. It's a really great way to be able to collaborate with the community, kind of a one-stop shop. We've got a number of things that have been added there that cover the community spectrum, things like videos, sharing is caring, the badges, a lot of the different toolings. So definitely take a look there. It's kind of a nice singular spot to be able to cover a broad spectrum of topics with other members of the community. And of course, we'd love to know what's working here in these community calls. So please provide us feedback. This also allows us to show our management that you appreciate and find value in these calls. So definitely take advantage of letting us know. Even if you already submitted, things are still working, let us know. They like to see that consistent flow of positivity and usefulness. So definitely take advantage of that. And oh my goodness, Vesta just said 699 members in Discord. Can you be the 700th? I think there's like a set of steak knives we give it. I'm just kidding, not that. But yes, definitely, you can be the 700th. That would be awesome. All right. Well, the recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 and Community YouTube channel. You're going to see in Teams tell you the video is ready. It's not. It's a little liar. It's only available to Microsoft folks. So don't try to download it. It'll just end up in tears. But you'll get some happy tears if you go to our YouTube channels and subscribe. And you can do that at ak.ms/community/videos. It will alert you as soon as the video is available. So definitely alert and subscribe and take advantage of that amongst all of our YouTube channels that are available to you, including the Power Platform. Now, you can also follow us on Twitter, or X as it's now known, at M365PNP, and as well as LinkedIn, ak.ms/community/li. The next M365 and Power Platform biweekly call, 2 weeks from today, April 26th at 7 a.m. Next week, we'll be back in our Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework call, October 19th. Thank you all for being the best part of this community. We absolutely would not be successful without the hearts and the passions that you all bring to it every single day. So have a great, wonderful rest of the week and enjoy your weekend.